I guess. Yeah, so I'm back again with these reviews. Gosh, I always feel like bad apologizing. I'm just very exhausted from work and whatnot. So apparently I watched this past week's episode first instead of watching the one before that. I guess I got confused on like what it was. So I really hope I didn't miss out nothing that happened in that other episode affects what happened in this episode, because then I'll just amend it in the second part. I mean in the first part, because it'll be recorded. It'll record it back and forth. Okay. So I'm sorry about the confusion. Hopefully it's alright. So yeah. Hi. So it wasn't the past week's episode, but the week before that. It was basically we got the return of Moriarty, and the episode develops in an interesting way to me. We knew from the certain bits of the season so far that Moriarty has been corresponding with Sherlock, and at first they made it seem like he just had been, reading the letters but hadn't been responding. We found out fairly soon that he had also been responding. We in fact saw him writing to her, and when Watson finds out, because Watson didn't even know about the letters at all. Obviously, he hid them. He hid them in a beehive. The beehives that are on top of their brownstone. And when he finally showed it to her, it was because he had to. Because a development in a case, it was a kidnapping, had the markers for Moriarty, because when the kidnapping happened, the voice, like the person the kidnapper, when they were talking on the phone, it was the exact same voice, the person who was playing Moriarty last season. So he was like, that's the same person. He's like, she's in this, and so he wanted to find a way to talk to her, because he lied to Watson, not only about the letters, but also about the fact that the reason why he decided to start corresponding her, like actually writing her back after the 5th letter he had like a total of 27 so far, and he said the reason why he was doing that is because he basically, it wasn't because he cared for her, but Watson called him a liar, basically, and saying you're still in love. Irene was the love of your life, but Irene didn't exist. This is all Moriarty. You know what she's like. But he's basically saying he just wanted to basically get in the head of Moriarty even more, because I think in a way Sherlock is still delusional about how he feels about that whole situation that happened. And the corresponding technically began. He even told Watson when it started. I think he said, like the day after they left London to go back to New York, and that's kind of a big deal. Like, that's a long space of time of getting letters back and forth, and Watson just being like, you lied to me about this, and it's just really messed up, especially because she hates Moriarty. And I love this. I love when they finally meet, because it ends up she's not even at the Watergate prison anymore. She's in New York City. She is. They basically, how she's manipulative as they come. She got somehow got the government to get her into this warehouse place, and when we see her for the first time, before it's her, Watson, Gregson, and Sherlock in the warehouse talking to her, we see her, and she's painting, and she's painted this huge thing of Watson. Like, it's ridiculously detailed. Like, you can just tell she knows her that well. And she's like, one of the bits about this episode, when Watson decides that she wants to talk to Moriarty alone, because he was pissed during the miss because he knew she was a part of it for some reason, and he thought it was because she was the one behind the kidnapping, but that wasn't so, and I'll get to that in a second. But Sherlock didn't want to go to the house with her where the kidnapping happened. But Watson was like, I'll go, you go look over the files or whatever. And so when she goes, Moriarty's already trying to edge her on. And she's like, I mean, before she even does that, she's like, you don't have to pretend to care. There's no one around that can hear you. And basically, you can just tell. She's like, you've been on my mind, Watson. And one of the things Moriarty says to Watson is that Sherlock will get, she's like, this is just a fleeting obsession, it'll pass. The same thing will happen with Sherlock, he'll get tired of you, basically. And I was like, you bitch, you better shut up right now, because you know, Watson's important to Sherlock. They might not see eye to eye most of the time, but they, you know, they really care about each other, and they have a true friendship. And I think this episode and the next one, which I talked about briefly after this, it's kind of interesting to see how different Sherlock is. He's enraged in two different ways. In this episode with Moriarty, I think in a way he's trying to figure out how to deal with this, how to try to trust her when he knows he can't, because she isn't the person he fell in love with. She is this menace. She is a murderer. She is just horrible. And Watson has to remind him of that a lot, because for a portion it seemed like he was interested in being in the same room with her, and he had in the beginning, because he was trying to figure out what she was doing, because she had the government under her table, basically, and she had a list of list of wishes that she wanted to happen in order for NYPD to get her help with this kidnapping case. But the funny thing about it is, the kidnapping case was something so much more than what appeared on the surface. I can't even go into all the details. Basically, so the guy who had the voice that, you know, when we first met Moriarty last season, the voice who we thought was Moriarty, that guy, he's not working with her, not really. In fact, he's trying to hurt her in a way. She had a lot of stuff on him, like a lot of stuff on him. And so she decided to give the help, because she knew something that they didn't. And it was a big game changer for everyone once it was revealed. And that was that the little girl who got kidnapped, like, the person who she was living with, who was supposedly her father and her mother, was not so. They were her adopted parents. And it turns out that was Moriarty's little girl. And you know it's a bitch when you mess with someone's kid. And basically, she turned on the, I'm gonna kill you, you asshole, for taking my child. Even though she haven't had her at all. Like, she hasn't seen her, or, like, you know, been with her. Like, after she had the baby before she even met Sherlock. So when I found out that it was her child, I was like, shit. No. I was like, yes, okay. So when she's like, I'm sure you worked it out that this was before we even became involved with each other. And it was interesting. And the final scene for this episode, it was because they had these special cuffs, like these handcuffs on her, and apparently there was a little glitch in it that she knew how to work, and that was the glass in her little paint jars where she had a paint in. If she broke it and cut her wrist, and it like ignited with the mechanism, it would like break it off or something like that. But she would bleed like real bad. She bleed real bad. That's how she got escaped. Sherlock, for his part, thought for the longest that she was trying to escape, which she was, but for a completely different reason. It wasn't because she was trying to, you know, to get back with her, like go back to being well, not go back. She's always been a horrible person, but to really go back and um, start back doing evil. Because one of the first things he says to her, she says, "You look well," and he goes, "And you look evil." And he takes his seat and he starts filling with something, but I think it's kind of that last scene is kind of interesting because she looks very I won't say different, but she looks slightly a bit more vulnerable, and it might have been because of the situation. We watched her murder someone, by the way. The actual guy, she murdered him because, you know, you don't mess with someone's kid, even if that person hasn't seen their kid in a long time. I think that would be the one instance that we can say that Moriarty actually cared for another human being, and it wasn't a scam. It wasn't some big game, some kind of ploy, you know? And so I think that's kind of interesting to see. But the kid was going somewhere else now, and she probably won't get to see her. But she killed that guy, and whew, that was crazy. So her and Sherlock kind of had this little moment. I won't say it's understanding, but basically, he basically had to talk with her about it. Like, it's kind of interesting to not, because she's not vulnerable in that moment. She's kind of both sides. She's kind of splitting between being the one he knew, like the Irene, and being Moriarty. She's like, we both know that I wouldn't have been a good mother anyway because of who I am, I truly am. And but basically she couldn't handle the idea of that happening, and that was just, it was insane though. Like, that was just a crazy interesting episode. And I think in a way they're kind of closing the book on Moriarty, at least for the moment, because obviously she's gonna go back to jail, probably go into an actual facility instead of being like sectioned off like she was, like how she manipulated people to do her bidding. I don't think it's gonna happen again, not right now, because of what happened, everything that happened during this episode. It just set it up for so much damage. She can't be trusted, not like that. No. And it's kind of truly telling how much Sherlock shared with her during his correspondence so far, because she knew about Watson and her dates, because in the very beginning episode, Watson left to go on a little lunch with this guy from that dating website she had started kind of going on. And so he mentioned that in his letter. And so when she saw Watson again, she's like, Sherlock's been expressing his concerns about your dating life. But Watson, that's one of the things that she's ticked off about. But also because she sees this big freaking painting of herself, and it's like actually accurate, like it's kind of scary accurate. It's that obsessive type thing, and it's just wrong. And I think when Sherlock came out of the warehouse with Moriarty in his arms to get to the paramedics or whatever so she can get taken care of, I think it was kind of interesting to see how what happened after that when they went back to the brownstone, and Watson was like, she's like, are you okay? Because she wanted to know. She was like, are you okay? I know, basically she's saying, I know you're not, but I want to ask you anyway to see if you'll tell me the truth. And so the episode kind of ends with him, he's sitting by the fire, and the letters are sitting beside him, like in little twine. It's like tied up together. And you would think that he's about to burn them, and I was hoping he was going to burn them. I know I'm horrible, but I think he should let her go. I think he should just be free of Moriarty, try to be free of her, because it's unhealthy for him to even try to develop any kind of relationship with anyone, even if he wanted to, even if he doesn't want to anymore. Because remember, he said he doesn't want to do that anymore because he's been hurt so bad because of the Moriarty Irene situation. And I think that's kind of very significant for him. So yeah, and so he doesn't end up burning them. He actually puts them right back in the little case in the beehive and slides it back in. And there concludes the episode. Yeah. So it's actually really good. It was just kind of like, whoa, she's back. What the hell's going on here? And like, it was a very good episode. I liked it a lot. I did, and I didn't like the next one too, which you will be hearing about in a second. So I hope you guys liked it, and tell me your thoughts. I want to know about the things, and I'll put a link to since Empty Hearst came out. I'm gonna put a link in the description about my meta I did for that. It's very long, and I put it on Tumblr like when it first aired in the UK, like 3 days afterwards. I just kind of, it was very thorough, and yeah. So enjoy the other half, and I'll see you guys later. Alright, so the last week's episode was called the Diabolical Kind, and the episode it's very interwoven with something that happened 2 weeks ago when we know Detective Bell got shot, and all the repercussions of that. He was very angry at Holmes. He didn't want anything to do with him. He's just like, no, please just stay away from me. And so a large part of this episode is the fact that Holmes and Watson, they're actually working with Detective Bell now. He moved to the demographics I don't know what you want to call it, I guess organization, or the demographics department, and so he's there. He seems to be doing well, which is a plus side, but it's very sad to, like, you kind of hope that he somehow finds his way back into NYPD and being with Holmes and Watson without that edge that he has. But he still has it, like, really, he has it majorly during this episode for the longest part, because he's upset, and it ends up being they end up having a heart to heart, which is really intense, but I loved it because it was very telling for how Detective Bell felt about Sherlock, and how Sherlock, we know he likes Detective Bell, but we never really know to what extent that was. And it was really interesting to finally hear that from both sides. And basically, Sherlock gets in his head and basically says, it may be my fault, but you're blaming you're not only blaming me, but you're blaming yourself. You're putting yourself in a position where you're not happy. You're happy you can do the job, but you're not being who you truly are. You're a detective. You're an analysis in the demographics division, and he's like, you don't belong there. You belong with us in the NYPD. And a lot of the issues with that is when Holmes and Watson get interwoven into a demographic situation. Detective Bell is sent to go investigate this problem that happened at this I think it's a warehouse. I'm not sure. I don't think it's a warehouse. It's some kind of thing, but they have all these barrels that have all this different fluid, like mechanics and fluid, like extra oil that's been used and stuff like that, and they come in barrels and they're color coded. There's some of them are painted blue, some are painted green, and one of the thing Detective Bell, he's with this woman who's his partner. Since he can't carry a gun anymore, he needs someone who can help, defend should the need arise. And so Detective Bell she goes inside to go look at videotapes, because there's a guy is talking about, because this man had spotted another guy moving this barrel, but he thought it was suspicious behavior. But apparently that's what they do there. They have, like, all up in this building, there's a whole bunch of different barrels, but the guy thought it was suspicious, which in its way it was. So he ends up finding this barrel that is painted um, green, but the paint is chipped, and so you can see little blue specks, and that's when and he's like, this doesn't look right. It doesn't look, because he starts knocking on another barrel because he's trying to see if there's anything inside, but he can't open it yet because he needs someone else to do it, and he has to put the little mask on just in case it's something hazardous to his senses that could possibly poison him. And so he goes about that, and when they open the barrel, there is a body inside with the head cut off. There's no head in there, but it's decapitated. And so that's what he ends up. He calls on his walkie for Gregson. He needs Gregson to come down, and when Gregson comes to him, he's like, no calls, no nothing, no letters, and then suddenly when you need me, you call me. And see, you kind of, in a way, Gregson's a bit annoyed with Bell too, because they worked together for years together on the force, and that was his right hand man, really. So when it came around to seeing him again, and I actually think there's kind of parallel here, because I'm gonna talk about it because Empty Harris came on last night on PBS, and but I had already seen it because I watched the UK airings, but I watched it again because Sherlock, I had to watch it, and so the Empty Harris came on, and a huge parallel that I just realized suddenly, Gregson and Gregson's attitude towards Bell is kind of similar to Mrs. Hudson's attitude towards John, because John did the same thing to her. He didn't contact her at all for a long time, up until the point when he decided to visit Baker Street and tell her about Mary. And that's kind of significant, isn't it? That's a pretty huge parallel that I think that's interesting though. But I'm pretty sure they were shot at different times, but that's kind of interesting. Yeah. So yeah, he had this. He was just, and basically Detective Bell, he understood where he's coming from, but he was like, "It's nice to see you." And then when Watson and Holmes come on the scene, because they were there, they're consulting with them, and I really feel bad for Sherlock, because he's trying so hard to be friendly with Detective Bell, because he really does care for him in his way, in his own way. And he was really trying, but it wasn't working out. Bell just wasn't having it. He told Watson it's good to see you, but he basically just brushed off Sherlock. He's like, no, I can't do this. And so he left, and Watson and Sherlock, they just start going over the crime scene, and and so they find out that the body is the son of one of the largest crime rings, one of the, a mob family basically. And so they have to figure out who killed him. Was it an opposing family, or was it an inside job? Was it someone who was in the family basically? So I just realized, oh, that makes so much sense now. Because the name of this episode is All in the Family, which is interesting. And I'm not sure, I probably screwed the hell up about that. I don't remember if I said the right name before, because I watched this episode before the other one, which kind of messes it up now. So yeah, but I already know what might be happening in the other one, so we'll see. So yeah, so that's basically the case. They have to figure out who did this, who killed him. And so one of their first suspects is someone within the family, of course. I think, if I'm not mistaken, yeah, he was what they termed a mutt, which is, I've actually heard this term before because people have called me that, because I'm mixed. I'm half Greek and I'm half black, and so that's what they call people who have mixed, ethnicities. This guy he's half Israeli and he's half Italian. And so this was their suspect because when they met with the father of the kid, you know, the guy who they found in the barrel, he said something about you're probably looking for someone who's a mutt, and he was one of the people who was, you know, I can't even say that word right now, successful. Gosh, that's horrible. I haven't been doing much talking lately. So basically, he was one of them on their list. So one of their main ones, Watson, was the one. She was going through the files of all the people in the family in the crime ring, and she latched on to him. And so him and Watson, they went to his house. Well, he was there obviously, but they didn't have a warrant to, you know. So they went ahead and started digging his trash, and his dog started barking. So they had to go and they went around and tried to go past without him noticing. But of course he did. He came out and was like, "What are you doing in my trash?" And he started, and then Sherlock told him, was like, you're a suspect for the death of the guy, right?" And so the dude's like, "I don't know what you're talking about. I really don't know what you're talking about." And so as they're leaving, he ends up getting in his car, and it blows up, as you would expect from something that happens with the family, with the mob, with the mafia, you know. And so then Gregson gets called in, and you know, he's like, and so they realize that, okay, it might have been him, but someone else just caused for him to be killed. So that case is closed, but another one is open now. Like, now they have to figure out who did this, because it's probably someone who triggered the first killing. So what they find out is, first they suspect it's the father. For some reason they suspected the father, like the father tipped off someone or something like that happened, but it doesn't turn out to be that. Well, it does in a way. He hinted at the one who ended up killing his son that something was amiss, and so he's like, "I didn't tell him to do it, I just told him about it." Like, he basically just mentioned it to him, and the dude took it as, "I want you to kill him." So then so then what was it? So this is when the problem arises with Holmes and Detective Bell. So one of the huge things that happened at the very beginning, right after Detective Bell and Watson and Holmes, they kind of went past each other when they went to go investigate the barrels with the dead body in it. The thing was that Holmes lied to Watson, and he went to go visit the chief director of the demographics, because he had two different reasons why. One was he was trying to basically get in the know with what was going on with Detective Bell. And then that was his main, but his second one supposedly was he really wanted to do analytical work and be able to get into data and stuff. But when Detective Bell saw him, he was pissed, and so he ended up going to Watson and being like, basically saying how pissed he was, like, because he was trying to get away from Holmes. I think that's one of his major reasons for saying yes to the director about going to demographics. But you know, Holmes knows people. He really does know people, like, in their essence. And this is before the fight broke out, because Holmes, they found out that it was probably the director who was the one behind both murders. Like, he basically was blackmailing the family, and that was going to be a big problem. And so Oh, Detective Bell was so upset. Like, he was like, "Are you kidding me? You expect me to believe this?" But then they give some evidence that supports their theory that this is something that's happening. And so Detective Bell doesn't want to believe it. He's like, "You're just messing with me. You're trying to ruin my life even more." But then Holmes is like, "No, no, you need to pay attention to this." And so I think against Detective Bell's better judgment, he decides to look into it just because he 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 doesn't like the idea of working for someone who's crooked, who's not good, who's dirty, and because he has a lot of pride for his work, and he's worked with amazing people in the past, and it's not okay for him to have to deal with that, and so he goes to the directors, the director, and he kind of hints at someone having anonymously tipped it without, but not it actually being a fake. Because that's the whole reason why he went to go investigate it all, because someone supposedly anonymously tipped that something was wrong, sketchy about that barrel. And so he goes to Holmes and wants him while they're waiting for pizza, and he's like, well, I don't think it was when they're. No, it was when they were waiting for pizza. Because Watson ordered pizza. She's like, we're gonna find a new pizza place because they're taking too damn long. And so, a big thing is, so he goes to him. He's like, I found this, and he basically tells Holmes, I didn't do it because I believed you. I did it because his tone was just off. It was off. And so what happens is they kind of make a plan together, and Detective Bell ends up laying of like a little seed that ignites the arrest of the director, because he ends up trying to kill the father. And the father is upset, obviously, because he's gonna take him on a boat ride with him like dead. He had a silencer and everything, so that's crazy. But of course, they found him before that happened. Like, Detective Bell had been watching him, and in the very end, Detective Bell came back to NYPD, and Holmes didn't know about it. He was like, "What?" Because him and Gregson and Watson, they were in the office and they were talking. Because Gregson he just got off the phone, and he was deducing what had happened. Like, the director was going to be sent to like a minimal secure facility because he made a deal. Of course, that's how that goes. And so yeah. So he's like, "What? He's back?" And so he turns around, and there's Detective Bell getting back to his desk, and Holmes just kind of smiles. And so when they leave the office, he looks at them and he just nods like, "Yeah, I'm back." And I just love that because I missed him. Like, I mean, when I first watched the beginning of the episode, and because one of the things that happened was Sherlock wasn't getting along with any of the other detectives in the NYPD who wasn't Gregson or Detective Bell, mainly Detective Bell. And Gregson caught on to that. He was like, "Listen, you can't keep doing this. Marcus went to demographics, and there's nothing that's going to change." Obviously, it changed because, he's back. But it was bad. Even Watson said, she's like, she didn't like it. So that was the thing, right? So that was a good episode, and I hope you like this. And I'll see you guys probably Friday. Yeah, Friday morning. I hope you guys have a lovely week, or we'll have a lovely week. God, it's early in the week. I'm not used to doing these that early. So yeah, I'll see you guys around. Bye.